In the aftermath of the murderous attack that killed 12 people at the Charlie Hebdo magazine's office in Paris, I understand you might be almost buying the Western anti-terror propaganda heavily advertised by Illuminati socket puppets like David Cameron. But before you fall for everything they are feeding you, I'm gonna pop you this question. How come several people in Paris just happened to be strategically placed in roofs and windows nearby the magazine's office, with cameras aimed exactly at where the terrorists parked their runaway car before attacking, filming everything in real time? And I am not talking about random bystanders accidentally walking down the street during the attack. I'm talking about several different people who knew exactly where to point their cameras, and knew exactly where the shooters would be standing. I am having a serious hard time believing that those people with cameras at those positions around the block at that given time were random spectators recording the attack out of sheer curiosity, as skeptics will claim, what strongly suggests an inside job in French soil, although there's no evidence so far. But the fact is that there's a series of suspicious details and circumstances that point out to this conclusion, like those two identical rental vans parked in a formation alongside the shooter's runaway car, as if their escape was being covered by extraction teams hidden in plain sight. Not to mention the fact that the alleged terrorists move an awful lot like black op goons in a mission, rather than religious fanatics out in a rampage attack. Also notice that the street where this person with a camera is placed is totally empty until the end of the second block, with no cars whatsoever, besides the shooter's runaway car seen around the corner. Doesn't this scenario look a little bit sketchy to you? Now just so we are clear, I'm not saying this was a fake terrorist attack, don't get me wrong, much by the opposite. I believe the bloodied hand of the shadow government is all over this event, although I still cannot figure out whether the French government took part on it, or if it was actually a message sent to them. A message related to the recent events I'm gonna remind you now. In the 2nd of December, the French Parliament said a big fuck you to Israel, and did a symbolic vote recognizing the Palestinian state. 5 days later, François Hollande made a surprise trip to Moscow to meet Vladimir Putin despite the Western sanctions against Russia, and earlier this year the French head of state defied the US and European Union's insistence on Putin, and publicly asked for the immediate end of the sanctions. Now it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that a retaliation was coming around the corner, and who better than the CIA Mossad-trained snack bar boys to carry out their message disguised as a terrorist attack. Now if the magazine was the actual target, rather than a collateral damage, what the mainstream media is not telling you is that the Charlie Hebdo's cartoonists didn't aim only at the Muslims. They also drew thought-provoking cartoons hinting about the leaders of the 3 biggest religious doctrines of the world, wanting to silence the magazine, and about Zionist Jews being the hand behind Muslim terrorism. But what really stood out was the last cartoon left by one of the murdered cartoonists, hinting at a terrorist attack in January. Certainly there's an awful lot of strange coincidences and suspicious circumstances permeating this murderous attack, but obviously you won't be seeing and hearing anybody connecting dots and asking nuisance questions on TV. Now if you ask me, I particularly think that there will be more attacks in other nations which either recently recognized the Palestinian state, or questioned the Western sanctions against Russia.